Okay. So welcome and good morning, everyone. My name is Christy Simon, the President and CEO of the Central Maryland Chamber. Thanks for joining us for our webinar this morning on the Platinum Rule and increasing your sales. We are looking forward to a great program. The Chamber's been having a series of educational events, and they've been recorded and are accessible for free right on our website, which is centralmarylandchamber.org. While you're on our website, you're also welcome to sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media for information on all the resources that we offer, as well as some more upcoming events. So, as I mentioned, and if you haven't done so already, feel free to take a moment to add your contact information in the chat box. Then, following the event, we will share that with the attendees so you can stay in touch. Also, if you have any questions throughout the program, Patrick will be stopping every once in a while to answer any questions you have. You can feel free to type your questions in the chat box and we'll get to them as they come through, or we'll also have some time for Q&A later in the event. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today's presentation. Patrick Lee Jr. received his undergraduate degree in political science and history from Earlham College and his Master of Arts in Management with concentrations in corporate management and business communications from the College of Notre Dame of Maryland. Starting his entrepreneurial journey, Patrick spent his summers home from college working for his father as a job site supervisor on construction sites. He recruited his friends to work for him, and to this day, they still remain close friends. Following graduation, Patrick co-founded and ran the business end of the first all-volunteer veterinary blood bank in the country, the Eastern Veterinary Blood Bank. This business created a brand new niche industry. The blood bank opened in 1993 and was successfully sold in 2011. Even though Patrick maintained his connections with the blood bank throughout its 18 years, his entrepreneurial and business efforts were not limited to just the blood banking industry. He went on to open a veterinary consulting business and became national director of sales for a patented product company. From there, Patrick took on the standard way that masonry products were marketed and founded, Visionary Product Solutions. Patrick has also worked extensively with nonprofits, which led him to the position of Executive Director of Leadership Anne Arundel. From there, he became a Vistage International Chair, launching 2 Vistage peer advisory boards. Currently, Patrick is the president of Chesapeake Think Tank and has recently launched a unique small business, the Spark Business Institute. Additionally, he has served and actively continues to serve on numerous nonprofit boards, to include being the past president of Anne Arundel County Arts Council, and he currently serves on the Annapolis Opera Board. Thanks again for being with us today, Patrick, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. That bio, I have no idea how it got into your hands. There is a much briefer and less obnoxious bio out there. I haven't heard that bio in probably a dozen years, so I'm not sure. But thank you for having me. Good morning, everybody. Today, we're going to cover sales, and we're also going to cover temperament. And we're going to combine those two things to have sort of a good chat about why certain things work, why certain things don't, why you may be frustrated with clients, why you may be frustrated with your efforts to get clients. So let's get started by identifying a few things. First off, we all know what the golden rule is. And the golden rule is do unto others as you would have done unto you, right? But if we stop and we think about that for a little bit, that's kind of a self-centered rule. Like, we're assuming that what we want done onto us, everybody would want done onto them. And that's actually not accurate. If we look at the realm of temperaments, and temperaments are personality types, I'm assuming most folks here have either taken a DISC or a Myers-Briggs or a color temperament. There's a whole bunch of different ones out there, and most folks have taken one. If you haven't, you'll get a chance to answer 2 questions a little bit later and figure out where you are on the DISC temperament scale. But when we look at temperaments, we realize that people prefer different communication styles. They have different ways in which they want to receive information. They have different styles in how they relate to folks, and they have different things that motivate them. And this goes across everything. So we're going to talk about it in regards to sales today, but this is, how they do their entire lives. So when you're in a relationship with somebody and you are trying to make that a positive experience, realizing what it is that motivates them, that inspires them, how they work, is absolutely super important. So that's what brings up the platinum rule. So the platinum rule is, do unto others as they wish done unto them. So that takes a little bit of effort to not think about what motivates you and how you wish the interaction that you're in to happen, right? It requires you to sort of look at the other person, do what we call people reading, where you sort of assess, what is this person's temperament? What is it that they're about? What makes them tick? How would they wish to receive the information that I'm delivering? And if you take the time to do that, what you find is the communication side of your interactions get very easy. Now, we all have this debate, right? Style versus substance. You hear all sorts of folks, especially in the sales area, who talk about different ways to sell. You know, there's those folks who are relationship, right? Look, I'm going to establish a relationship, a rapport with people. I don't worry about the details. I've got a bunch of experts back at the office who can deal with that. I just got to make sure that there's a rapport. I get this person sort of hooked on the line. They like to know about that particular product. But invariably, whatever your style is, and there are more styles than that, whatever your style is, you've had that experience where you've gone in, you're talking to somebody, and their eyes are glazed over, and you're going, okay, what went wrong here? What did I not get right? Right? Why was that such an awkward exchange? I mean, I know that my product or service could help them, but there was just no clicking. There was nothing that happened there where I could communicate well. So that likely is that style versus substance. You may have the substance, you may have the answer, but you did not communicate to those folks in the way that they needed in order to engage with you. So let's jump to temperaments and let's actually talk about that. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about the DISC temperament style. Okay, can everybody see that? All right, so let's do a quick overview of DISC. I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining too much about temperament because I'm assuming most folks have a little bit of background on this, but just to give everybody a framework to work from while we then look at how this ends up affecting things. So here's what DISC is. DISC is 4 quadrants, and you see the circle here. That circle has your D, your I, your S, and your C. And a couple of quick things to note before we get into this. The first is there's not actually 4 temperaments, there's 12. If somebody is close to one of these lines, they are either a DI or an ID or an IS or an SI. So there's actually 12 temperaments here. But for the purpose of what we're doing here, to make this simple, we're going to only talk about the 4 main temperaments, the D, the I, the S, and the C. So D stands for dominance, okay? And Ds are very aggressive, okay? There's not a challenge that they've ever seen that they couldn't overcome. They're full of energy. They just want to get things done. They're results-based. You know, they want answers. They don't suffer delay. They don't want to hear that things can't be done. They'll break rules when necessary to actually get to an end result. They're definitely task before people. And so their strengths are that they pretty much will conquer what needs to be conquered. Their weakness is that D also stands for some words that aren't really nice to say out loud, okay? They tend to be very domineering, all right? They can be abrupt. There's a lack of patience there. They're definitely going to get the bus to the destination, but there's a good chance that a whole bunch of people got off the bus on the way there, okay? And that's where their weakness lies. Eyes are influence. And eyes are all about motivation, energy. They see big ideas. They see vision. They can motivate people and teams to go towards that vision. They solve problems really quickly, very creatively. And they're very relationship-based, right? They want to make sure that they're being looked at in a way that is favorable and that you and them are on a good, you're in a good trajectory here. We're good. The limitations that eyes frequently face are They never really met a detail that they liked. Those big ideas are great, and it's fun to conceptualize, but to actually lay out what it would take to get it done, that's kind of boring for the I. The other thing with I's is they tend to get bored with stuff. So they'll take a project maybe to 60%, maybe 70%, but there's probably a group that needs to make sure it gets finished all the way because the I's attention is on the next squirrel that ran down the road, right? S's. S stands for steadiness. S's are your tortoise, not your hare. Very steady. They keep things moving along. They're the ones who follow systems, processes, procedures. They get things done. They're very, very concerned about the morale of the entire group, the entire team. Okay, so they're all about making sure everybody's getting along here, everybody's working together, our morale's good. The issue for S's is S's tend to look a little bit wishy-washy. Because they're so concerned that everybody's getting along, they tend to not take a strong stand. They want to sort of straddle the fence a lot. So there's a lot of wishy-washiness happening there. The other thing is S stands for status quo, right? They don't like change very much. In order to get change to happen with S's, you've got to give them a long runway to see what's coming. You got to give them a lot of explanation, and there's got to be a lot of making sure that morale stays good for change to happen. Now, the C stands for conscientiousness, okay? The C's are our engineers of the world. So the I may dream up the Bay Bridge, right? But the C is the one who says, we need to do this, this, and this to allow cars to actually travel over that bridge, right? So the C's make sure things are done right. They're about data. They're about analysis. They're about formulas being correct. Answer at the end of the formula being correct, right? A lot of details, a lot of effort on making sure it's right. Now, where the C's are challenged are that paralysis by analysis concept, right? C's frequently, there's never a piece of data that wasn't worth reinterpreting all of your conclusions over. No matter if you had 99.999% of the data, that 0.001% that's hanging out there, if it shows up, they're going to want to reevaluate everything, okay? The other thing that C's tend to struggle with a little bit is working in a group. If you put a D, an I, an S, and a C at a table, and they had to work on a project together, you'll see the D, the I, and the S collaborating. You'll see the C will be off writing on their pad of paper or on their computer, paying no attention to what's going on over there. And when they're done, they'll turn around and they'll say, here's what I've done. Can I see what you guys have done? Right? They tend to need to be in their own heads in order to do the analysis and do the work. So that's sort of the layout on DISC. So right now is a good point. Anybody, any questions on DISC itself? Okay. All right. So here's what where this becomes really useful. This becomes useful in that if we learn a few ways in which when we meet folks, we can decide what their temperament is, we can also then decide how best to give them information, how they want to receive that, what style of communication will work with them, and what motivates them. And this is incredibly important when you look at how these temperaments tend to interact. So when you were looking at that circle, you saw that the D and the I shared a line, right? And the I and the S shared a line. So a bunch of those types have some connectivity with each other. However, the D and the S only shared the middle dot of the circle. And the C and the I only shared that middle dot. And so what we see there is we call that the shadow. So the C's shadow is an I, the I shadow is a C, and so on. And what that means is that they actually, the weaknesses of the S are strengths generally of the D. And the weaknesses of the D are strengths of the S. So they balance themselves really well. The same with the C and the I. So in times in good times, they complete each other, right? So what I don't have, my shadow has, and we can make sure that we're bouncing off of each other. And it's all great and everything works well. In times of stress, though, when things are getting a little bit of friction, we tend to go to our hardwiring. And that means that we move away from the other types. And so that's when all of a sudden an S cannot stand a D, and a D cannot work or be bothered with an S. And so when we see that happen, that's the place where our conscious understanding of the fact that this isn't that there's something wrong with that person, right? This is that their temperament, their style, what they need differs from my own. So what happens there is by that recognition, we can actually communicate to them. So let's take this to that sales piece that we talked about. Let's talk about sales here a little bit. If I'm a D and I'm going in and I'm selling everything based on like, okay, I am driven to make a sale, to solve your problem. Let's go, let's go, let's go, right? And by the way, results, results, results. There's a whole bunch of people who are looking at you going, I don't understand. Why are you so intense? What is that you're doing there, right? The I's going, okay, but what's the concept, and why are you so, intense? The S is definitely backing away. Like, you scare us. You're going to destroy the morale of our teams. We don't want anything to do with you, right? And the C is like, okay, I get it. There's some results here, but do you want to show me the truth about, the research on your product? Like, how does it work? What is it? And so you're not communicating to them the way they need to be. So here's just an example. If you were able to read their type, how would you go in and sell them? So let's take that you're selling your widget, and you have a 1 o'clock appointment, all right? And that 1 o'clock appointment, you walk into that office. Obviously, we're post-COVID because you're walking into an office. Hopefully, you don't have to wear a mask at this point. But you go in, you see the person at the desk. They look up, and they go, oh, it's 1 o'clock already. Okay, yeah, come on in, sit down. What is it that you've got to tell me, right? You're probably dealing with a D, right? They're abrupt. They're to the point. They don't want to be bothered necessarily. Let's get to the results. What do you got for me? So if I'm selling a D, my approach is very simple. I go, okay, Ms. D, I understand we have an appointment at 1 o'clock. We're scheduled to 1:30. I promise you I will be out of here by 1:15, saving you 15 minutes of time. I want to get right down to this. We got this widget. It works incredibly in the systems that you guys are dealing with and the processes that you work in. It's an improvement over what's there before. We have seen the following results when people use this widget. The cost is X. The return on investment is Y. And if you just give it a try, I can tell you, you're going to see results. Then I look at my watch and say, oh, look, it's only 1:10. I saved you 20 minutes. I appreciate your time, Ms. D. It was great. Here's what's going to happen here. If you got any questions, feel free to give me a call. If you want to move forward, let me know. If I don't hear from you, I will check back with your assistant in 3 days and just see if there's anything else I can do for you. Thank you very much. Enjoy that time that I created for you. And you leave. Now, what did I do? I didn't bother with relationship stuff. I didn't bother to talk about the weekend. I didn't do any of that fluffy stuff. I got right to the point. I was very conscious of the fact that D's are always rushed. They don't want to be bothered. If I can get out of there quick, all the better. And I didn't tell them I was going to call them. Because here's what I know about a D. They're going to make a decision immediately, okay? So that if they want to engage with me, they're going to call me back. If they have questions, they're going to call me. If I start calling them to see what's going on, the chances of me making a future sale with them diminishes greatly. They don't want to be bothered. So I said, I'll call your assistant in 3 days. Because all I'm going to do at that point is if they haven't contacted me, we're not going anywhere. I need to check my box, get this client on a drip, make sure they know that I did follow up. But I don't want to bother that particular D, right? So let's do this. Let's go into the office of the I. So I walk into the office. I see a gentleman sitting behind the desk. I look around the office. There's posters up on the wall, right? Motivation, integrity, adventure, right? Big, nice, colorful posters. I see pictures of family, pictures of dogs, There's some bowling trophies up on the bookshelf. There's knickknacks all over the place. Brightly colored room. You know, I'm like, this is probably an I. Okay. Mr. I looks up from the desk, says, "Hey, it's 1 o'clock already. Great. I'm Bob. Nice to meet you. You know, handshake. Have a seat. How are you doing?" Right. So what do? I say, "I'm doing great. Hey, I'm looking around your office. Is that your family?" Right. I say, "Yeah, that's my family." "Oh, beautiful family. And I see you've got, how many dogs do you have?" "3. Yeah, I've got 2 dogs. I've also got 2 cats and a couple rabbits too. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, I see you got bowling trophies up there. Are you a good bowler?" "Really? You've done that?" "I don't bowl myself, but my grandmother, she was a great bowler. She bowled, you know, at least 200-300 games that were recorded. She had a whole room full of trophies." Blah, 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 right? On and on and on. We're establishing rapport. This is a great relationship. Wow, this is fun, okay? And then I look at my watch. Oh my gosh, it's 1:25. I'm so sorry. We've taken up all that time doing that. I haven't even told you about why I'm here. Mr. I, Bob, says, "That's not a problem. We're good. We're good. Take whatever time you need. Go ahead. We're fine." You know, so I'll quickly go through it, and I'm going to stay at big concepts, right? "Hey, we had this great idea for this widget. We knew it would change up the industry. It totally revolutionizes everything. You won't believe what it can do for you." Okay, maybe 2-3 minutes of that at most. Shaking hands, I leave. I have now established a relationship with Bob. If Bob has any interest in that widget or a need, he's calling me back because we now have that established relationship. I didn't bother with details. I didn't bother with anything else. I just made sure I was communicating to Bob. So now let's go and let's look at our S. So we go in and we see a gentleman sitting behind the desk. He looks up. He says, "Oh, you're right on time. Great. Have a seat. Were the directions good? Did you find us okay? Okay, great, great. Was parking all right? Did you got parking, right? Oh, good to know. Did they offer you a drink when you were in the waiting room? Do you need anything now? You're okay, right? Okay, I am talking to an S. All they want to do is make sure I'm good. So I'm super happy with that. So I'm going to say, okay, let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here about this widget, and this widget really improves how things work on your process. Now, I know it's a big deal to change widgets midstream. I know that. But what we have found is this eliminates so many problems that cause such bad morale in teams that people that don't try this widget out just to see if it'll work or not, they're missing the boat here, because this gets a whole lot of irritation and angst off of project managers. It absolutely does. All right. And the other thing to know is it's a seamless fit. You don't have to rip up everything in order to get this fit in there. We'll take the old one out, we'll slide the new one in, and we'll make sure it all goes smoothly. And in case something does go wrong, we've got a 24/7 help desk, right? So I'm speaking the S's language here. Okay, change is scary. Okay, you guys are taking care of that, right? You're also just as worried about my team's morale and how we're all operating together as I am. This is great. Okay, now we go into C's office. So Ms. C, we go into Ms. C's office, we walk in, and typically what you're going to see is you're going to see lots of work piled everywhere, right? C's going to be on their computer, typing away, working. When you walk in, they'll look up, they'll say, "Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Okay, come on, have a seat." They'll finish up something they're doing, and then they'll say, "Okay, what can I do for you?" All right? So I'm probably dealing with a C here. So if I'm dealing with the C, I have a special packet prepared for C's, right? And that packet is, here's my widget. Here's what it does. This is why we created it. This is how we feel it improves everything. I've taken the liberty of bringing you all the stats on our widget. Okay, I have every piece of design stat here you could possibly want. I also have a bunch of independent analyses of the widget showing that it actually does what we say it does. And I've got a whole bunch of information that we've gathered from all the folks who use this widget, okay? And I've taken the liberty of printing all these pages out and highlighting the important parts for you so you can get right down to it. Here you go. Now, I know you're going to have questions, so I've actually freed up my calendar tomorrow morning from 8 to 9 so that you can call me and ask me any questions you want. Because I'm telling you, what we are delivering to you is exactly what we say it is, and it does exactly what we say it does. Okay, so I am talking the C's language. Lots of data, I get to analyze it, and I get to interrogate you to make sure that it's real what you've given me, okay? C's love that. We're good. All right, so when we look at this, what we see is we may have the goods, right? We may have the answer. We may have the solution. We may be in their corner. But if we don't lead with style, we don't get to our substance. And every single one of these temperaments has a different style and a different set of motivations that make them decide if they want to buy something or how they even go about making a decision. Does that make sense so far? Any questions? Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more in depth here, because we all know that sales is not just that initial meeting. You know, when we're networking, that rapport is a good thing to establish. When we're trying to sell our initial sale, obviously we want to make that work, and this applies there. But it also applies really well in situations of retention and in situations of servicing clients we have, or even helping to upsell clients that we have. Because once we know what the person's temperament is, we then know how they're going to behave in times of stress, in times of friction, when they're problem solving. We know what that's going to be. And that allows us to appropriately engage with them to help them solve the problem. Especially, let's say, if our product has caused the problem, right? If our product has caused the pain and now we're swooping in to try to salvage this client to make sure we can retain them to fix it, we need to know how to do that. So I'm going to share a screen again, and we're going to look at some of the issues related to that. Okay. Hold on one second here. I think that is the wrong one. Okay. All right, so here we see our circle, our DRS, our SNRC. And right now, for those of you who don't know what your DISC is, you're going to get an opportunity to get a generalized which of these quadrants you're in, okay? So when we're looking at this, we're going to ask two questions. And by the way, these are the questions that you would ask yourself when you're trying to people read and determine what is the temperament of the person I'm talking to. Okay, these are the things you want to get a sense of to be able to do that. So you can do that for yourselves right now to see what your type likely is. So the first question you're going to ask is the person that I'm dealing with energetic and outgoing, or are they more reserved? Okay, if they're energetic and outgoing, they're at the top of the circle. They're either a D or an I. And if they're more reserved, they're towards the bottom of the circle. They're probably a C or an F. Okay, so you can answer those questions for yourself there too. All right, the next question that we end up asking is, are they more skeptical or are they more accepting? If they're more skeptical, they're either a D or a C. If they're more accepting, they're an I or an F. So you see how you put those together. A D is more energetic and outgoing and more skeptical, and so on. So you can pretty much figure out what your type likely is. Now, here's what happens a lot, is that we end up knowing one of these questions really well. Like we'll say, oh, that person is definitely more skeptical. But I'm not really sure if they're more outgoing or more reserved. Well, that generally means that you probably found somebody who's either a CD or a DC, right? They're right on the line. But for the sake of people reading, you need to make a guess. And once you've guessed, you kind of know where you're going. And as you talk more to them, they will reveal their type a little bit better. So you can always adjust. You can say, oh, I thought that person was a C, but they're a D. Now, if they're close to the line, there's really no harm. because they have similarities in how they perceive things. So when you're delivering to them, you're probably getting it pretty close, even if you hadn't quite got their type exactly right. Okay? So now, here's what happens next. What happens next is that when there is an issue, when there's a problem, and that problem can be that somebody has called you up, your company up, and said, we've got a problem. Okay, now you know they're stressed. They're calling you up. They're new. Or it could be a client of yours, right? Hey, there's an issue. We need you to help deal with this. Okay, so we know they're stressed there. But we also know that conflict, stress, friction, whatever you want to call it, there's positive and there's negative, right? And what we want to stay is positive. We want to be in problem solving. So we know that every one of these types problem solves preferably in a different way. So D's, when they face a problem, they're driven to solve it. So there's an intensity, they're driven, okay? When I's are doing that, they're expressive. They want to communicate, they want to talk, they want to show you things, they want to make sure that, you know, okay, we all seeing what we're seeing here, let's communicate, okay? The C's, as you would guess, they want to analyze. What are we dealing with here? Let's get the data. Let's look at this, okay? And the S's, they're amiable, okay? Hey, we have a problem, but we're all smiling. We're all still getting along. It's going to be okay, right? Let's not let this overwhelm us. Let's stay together, okay? So we see the preferred style of every one of these types in one of these situations. What happens, though, is that if we add stress to this, if this problem doesn't get solved, if being driven, expressive, amiable, or analytical isn't solving it, these folks will all drop down a level and behave a little bit differently. So let's look at each of them. So the D, as we said, is driven. Stress enters into the equation. They drop down a level, and the D becomes autocratic. So they go from, okay, yeah, let's get this solved, you know, okay, we need to fix it, to, okay, enough of this. We're not getting anywhere. I'm tired of this crap. This is what we're going to do. This is what I say needs to happen. Do this. All right? You know, okay, that's where the D goes. Now, if the D, by being driven and autocratic, can't actually solve the problem, okay, it's still there, the stress is still pouring in, they drop down another level and they go into avoidance. Because if I can't take charge of this thing and just make a result, then I'm powerless. And D's don't want to be powerless, so I'm better off just ignoring it, okay? And ignoring it means ignoring it entirely. Moving on to other things. People that are involved in that problem don't really want to talk to them. I'm not going to respond to that email. Now, this, as you can see, provides a lot of problem, right? How do you solve a problem if you're avoiding something, okay? Now, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I want to get each of the types in first. So let's do the I. So the I, as we said, very expressive. They want to communicate. Okay, you're here to help me solve this problem. Great. Let's talk about it. Problem doesn't get solved. The I now becomes attacking. And when I say attacking, I do mean attacking, personal attacking. Remember, the left side of the circle, the D's and the C's are all about task. The right side of the circle, the I's and the S's are all about people. So when the I is attacking, they're not attacking process or task. They're attacking people. So they're the ones you hear standing by the water cooler going, I have no idea why she said that. That was the stupidest thing I ever heard. And what he was doing in that meeting was just wrong. And I mean, that's where you get that whole intensity there, okay? Likely an I, all right? Now, if that doesn't help, and how would it, they'll drop down another level and they become acquiescing. When the I gets fully beaten down, their shoulders go down, their head goes down, and they start saying, yep, yeah, okay, sure, that's what we'll do. All right. Okay. Let's look at the S. Stress enters the equation. The S is being amiable. They got a big smile on their face, right? And things are not working out. People are starting to get grumpy. Morale's going down. The S is quickly beaten down, okay? They can't keep up the smile. They can't fake that this isn't going on. They can't just solve it by everybody getting along. But, you know, they don't have a lot of fight in them. So their shoulders go down. Their head goes down. They are acquiescing. You know, this is just what it's got to be. Yes, yes, fine, that's fine, that's fine. Now, we go down to our final level here, and they become attacking. The S now has been driven over the edge, and they're actually irritated that this has been allowed to get to this point, and they become attacking very quickly. Okay, so now we'll jump to the C's. They start out analyzing. If they can't analyze their way to an answer, they will then avoid, right? If I can't find out the right answer, I don't want to deal with this thing, so let it go. Final piece is they will become autocratic. If you're forcing me to make a decision and do something with this, if you're forcing that and I am not allowed to avoid it, then by gosh, this is what we're going to do. Okay, now when you look at these, what you see real quickly is this. The third level is very much the opposite of the first level. So the D is driven. For them to then become avoiding, those are very opposite things. So you know you have a broke D when they're avoiding, because their preferred style of solving this stuff is to be driven. The I wants to communicate, right? They want to be expressive. So for them to become acquiescing, shoulders down, head down, they just give up. That's not what an I does, right? C's want to analyze. They want to figure it out. For them to just start barking out orders, that goes against type. They don't want to just bark out orders. They want to know that what they're having done is the right thing. And the S is the one that freaks people out the most, because S's are always smiling. They're always acquiescing. They're always making it good. For them to become attacking makes people go, whoa, something's really wrong. Now, here's why this is so important. Here's what we know about people who are not at their optimal in terms of problem solving. They're not at their top level. If you're down in your second level or third level, if you make decisions when you're down there, if you come up with solutions while you're at avoid or autocratic or acquiescing or attacking, if you're there, those decisions solution when they were, if you sold a C a solution when they were in autocratic mode, and you went to put that in place, they're going to try to stop you. They're going to say, wait a minute, I want to analyze this. I'm not comfortable with the decision I made. They won't honor that decision. And we know that throughout this entire process. We know that if you don't have people at their optimal point when they make a decision, they're going to try to sabotage it or change it or reanalyze it, okay? And that's really important, especially when you are servicing a client, selling a client a solution to a problem. You need to make sure they're at that top level. So how does that work? So let me explain this so you can see how deep this whole thing can go for how you interact and how you work with your clients. Let's say it's an I, right? Yeah, let's go back up to the I. Oop, there's the I. All right. So say we got this problem going on, and the I is behaving this way. You know, they got their head down, they got the shoulders down. They're, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's what we'll do. Yep, if that's what you think the answer is, we're good to go. Okay, you know it's an I. You know they're at the third level. You know this is dangerous space. So you don't just take that yes, fine, whatever. You say, whoa. You know, whoa, Ms. I understand that this is a problem, and I understand that you're feeling, you know, powerless or beat down or whatever, but we really need your input on this. We can't just roll with it. I mean, what are you thinking? What are you doing? And they'll try to put you off. No, just do whatever you got to do. Say, no, talk to me. So they'll rise up a level. And you tell they did because they'll look up and they'll say, well, you know, this would never have happened if you would have just called us back when we called you the first time. You know, so now I have you here, you know, trying to sell me a solution or fix this thing, and it didn't have to happen if you would have just done what you told me you were going to do, which was be available, right? Okay, whoa, they're up in attacking mode. Great, they're moving up a level. We'll take that as a plus, and we'll keep talking, right? Well, really apologize for what happened. You know, we talked about that. We didn't expect that our person in charge of quality control would be out sick that day. You got routed to somebody who was out of the office and not back to the next day. We're really sorry, you know, but that happened. But let's talk about now. And then the I can't help themselves, because when problem solving, each one of these types wants to be at their top level. So now the I pops back up to expressive, and you start having that conversation. So when you're in a sales process or a problem solving process, an upsell process, you know, client servicing, any of those things, when you're there, you need to make sure you've read your person right. Are they a D, an I, S, or a C, right? And you've got to be aware of how they communicate and also aware of where they are in their stage of stress. So this right here is your cheat sheet. So if you were to prep for any sort of appointment with a potential client, an already client, an upsell, any of that, this gives you all the cheating you need to do to be able to people read and deliver on message and on style to the people that you're working with. Okay. Any questions at this point? All right. Now I'm going to tell you one quick little story, and this story is designed to really sort of put this for you, so you never forget it, so it sticks in your head. Okay. So we're going to tell the story of a team, a D, an I, an S, and a C, and this team has been put together by a company to go off site and work on a problem. Okay. And they're supposed to come back with a solution to that problem. And so the next day at 8 a.m., they're supposed to be off-site at this place doing this. So at 7:15 at the off-site location, a car pulls into the parking lot. The driver looks around, sees there's nobody in the parking lot, goes, yes, pulls way over to the edge of the parking lot, parks in a slot way off to the side. It's our C. The C's generally are going to be there really early. They flip open their laptop, they figure out where the hotspot is, and they go, 45 minutes where I can get some stuff done. And they start working on their computer, right? At about 7:45, so about a half hour later, car pulls into the lot. Driver looks over, sees that the C's parked over there, goes, oh, C's already here. Great. Drives over, parks right next to C, hops out of the car. It's our S. Our S has arrived. Walks over, knocks on the window of the car and says, hey, C, it's great to see you. This is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. C, of course, is startled because they're deep in their work. They're like, whoa, like, oh, hey, S, I was working. But S isn't paying any attention. S is like, oh, yeah, you were working. Yeah, that's great. Getting stuff done. We got a great team here. You know, I think this is going to go really, really well. I'm excited, right? And C's like, yes, yep. Okay, now, at about 7:58, okay, maybe 7:59, a car comes zooming into the parking lot, shoots right up to the door, parks right in front of the door opens to the car, out jumps the D, slams the car door shut, looks over, sees, oh, look, there's S and C. You know, hey, SC, let's go. We got stuff to do. Let's go. In they go. All right. Now, they sit around their little table, and they're going, okay. D goes, look, we got a problem to solve. I don't want to spend all day on this if we don't have to. Let's get this solution going here. What do you guys think, right? So C goes, D, I've taken the liberty of doing a whole bunch of research on this, and starts pulling their papers out and laying them up on the table. If you'll indulge me a little bit, I'd like to go through and tell you all of the stuff that I found, right? And so D's sort of looking at C going, well, maybe a little bit of that, C, right? But, we don't want to spend all day on this. He's like, no, I think this is important. In the meantime, S is going, whoa, stop. What are you guys doing? What are you trying to do here? I's not here. I's not here. We can't go. What are you doing? Stop. Right? So D's going, hey, S, calm down. I knew when the time was. They're not here. They're late. That's their problem. We need to get this solved. So S is, oh, this is awful. I can't believe this is happening. And C's going, and D's going, okay, what's going to happen here? So let's say about 8:15-ish maybe. In walks I. I said, I am so sorry. I am late. I would have been here, on time. But when I came out of my house, I saw that my neighbor was back in town. They had gone to Barcelona. So I'd gone over to talk to them about what was going, how their trip was. I started talking, didn't realize what the time was. I'm saying, oh my gosh, I got to get going. So I came over here, and I would have been here a little bit earlier, but I couldn't help noticing, S, you got a lot of bumper stickers on the back of your car, a lot of like save the animal stuff. You're really into animals, huh? Right? Okay. So D's like, stop. We're working. Sit down, please. And S is like, oh, thank God you're here. All is good with the world again. Here we go. C's still droning on, right? So now D goes, hey, C, this is all good, but why don't we try to work some of this out, and then you can tell us what's relevant, right? And C's like, okay, but I'm coming to a stopping point. Let me get to my stopping point, right? So he goes on a few minutes longer, and now I goes, guys, remind me again, what was the issue we're dealing with, right? So D goes, well, the issue is right? And I goes, oh, okay, thanks. So a little more interaction, and then I goes, well, hold on a second. Why don't we just do this? And then everybody stops, right? And they go, well, that's a great idea. Yeah, what do you think? And D's like, well, that sounds like you can do it. C, does that line up with stuff? C will be like, I really need to check it out and all, but on the surface it sounds pretty good, right? Okay. So now you've seen all the types in action, stereotyped for effect. You should be able to remember. Now my thing to you is this. If they take that solution and they decide, okay, we're going to do that solution, who do you think it is that actually does the work? It's the S. Okay. S for steady, they'll get it done. So the purpose of that story is to drive home the types for you, because what I encourage you to do is this. When you are dealing with clients, when you are selling, and this is easy to learn in a selling environment, try to people read. Try to change up how you are presenting. Don't just present from what makes sense to you. Try to present to how these types operate. Okay? And I will tell you this. When I first started playing with this concept, which was a long time ago, it was a little difficult to actually be able to immediately tell. But now I can pretty much tell 90% of the time on a phone call, not even seeing the person, in the first 30 seconds. People are hardwired to be this way. And if you listen to their language, you listen to their tone, and you listen to their intensity, you will be able to begin to people read. And when you mimic back their styles to them, they will be far more receptive to what you are telling them, what you are asking them, what you are selling them. Okay, that is my presentation. Do we have any questions?
No questions, but a comment, if I may. I love it. Great presentation. Thank you for so much insight. And we had, as an organization, a DISC training on employee hiring, so the interview process and etc. And that was an eye-opening. But I never thought, actually, that this principle can be used literally everywhere, right? You can use it for sales, you can use it for problem solving, for hiring folks. It's great. And when you mentioned mimicking, one of the book, the animals have this, right? We mimic each other. I mean, animals, when they do one thing, the other one mimics it, and then they're like, oh, I'm friendly, I'm like you, I'm receptive. It's the same thing as mirroring people too, right? When you're talking a little bit of technique of mirroring what they're doing, kind of like psychological, but I love it. Like, especially when you explain the steps and then how you can bring them back out from that. Because sometimes they say, yeah, I got it, I'm good. That's not, quite frankly, good, right? Because the next email could be, due to these reasons, your contract is canceled. We don't want that. We want to bring them out from like, okay, whatever, yours is yours, to like expressive level, or to that level where we're all in agreement. So I love it. Thank you.
I will comment a little bit. Hold on one second, Jim. I'll comment a little bit more on that, because remember, we started with the golden rule, right? The golden rule, all it means is that everybody who's practicing the golden rule is well-intentioned, but they're not well aware. The platinum rule, you're both well-intentioned and you're making yourself consciously aware, right? So if you're looking to that person so that you can go to them, you end up solving a lot of things where both parties came in with the golden rule, they were well-intentioned, and things ended up badly, right? Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you very much. I thought this was great. You started off with a story, I think it was about D, the dominant person that you're selling to, and you shared a story about walking into their office and they've got bowling trophies and pictures of dogs or whatever. That is a great way to disarm someone who really doesn't want you there. Because, human nature is, people like when you talk about them. They like when you mention their name repeatedly during the conversation. They also like when you applaud them for their bowling trophies or their golf trophy or whatever it might be, or the dog that they have. Those are great icebreakers, and it does bring people down to a level playing field. So it's happened to me many times where you can tell that the person you're meeting with is going to give you the rush act and isn't looking up from their desk. But you can disarm them by talking about the things that you can learn about them just by looking around the office. Everyone loves for you to ask questions about their dogs and their golf game and their grandchildren. It's a great way to disarm.
And it generally will work for one half of the circle for certain. The other half of the circle, the D's and the C's, you kind of have to read them a little bit, because it may be that they need a friendly little outreach, like you said, to break that ice and to get disarmed. But it also may be that if you don't get to the point real quick with those two types, they're not going to give you the time of the day again, because they're so stressed, they're so moving along that stuff feels like a distraction to them. So I would be, if you go into a room and there's tension and you don't have any idea, I like Jim's default of let's disarm, let's be friendly. That's a real good way to start. But if you can people read, that's the way to go for an S or an I for sure. Be careful with the D sometimes, and the C may care, may not. Anything else? All right. So that last slide that I showed, that cheat sheet slide, I will actually send out or send to the chamber to have sent out. So if you wish to try to use this more consciously, you have your cheat sheet. And I appreciate you all letting me present today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been really a very informative session. I know we've used DISC as we've brought on new employees, but I think we need a whole time to bring on a whole new, so we know we've got such a new staff, we need to revisit that. So we hope you'll tune into future webinars. You can find our schedule on our chamber website, www.centralmarylandchamber.org. But I do have a couple upcoming events that I just want to put to your attention real quick. On the 18th of March, we're going to have a COVID-19 vaccination update for Anne Arundel County businesses with the Anne Arundel County Health Officer. And on March 24th, we have our Odenton Town Center business meeting on the master plan review. So if you're a business who works in the Odenton area, this is really important for you. March 25th will be our next Membership 101 session. And looking forward to April 19th is going to be our annual meeting and Hall of Fame Business Award induction ceremony. And April the 20th, we're going to turn things a little on our heads and do a virtual networking trivia for the 20th of April. So if you haven't joined the chamber yet, we'd love to have you as a new member. We're growing and we've got great things planned for the coming year, including our very first in-person large event, which will be June the 15th. It's our golf tournament at Turk Valley. So that's all I have today. We will share the link from today's presentation and Patrick's slide that he's going to send over. Thank you again to Patrick and the whole team at Chesapeake Think Tank for a great presentation. And we encourage you to reach out to them to schedule a one-on-one if you have any further questions about DISC. We hope to see you all again soon and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.